Welcome back. We went into closed session at 4:48. During closed session, we discussed labor negotiations, public employee discipline, and student discipline. No decisions were made, so there's nothing to report out. So I would like to open this session of our board meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. And Mrs. Galicia, will you please lead us?
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Galicia. We'll have an executive summary of our workshops. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you so much. We were really privileged earlier this evening, President Catulli, to be joined by the McGaw Sea Lion community. Mrs. Wood gave an absolutely wonderful report that updated us on everything that's happening at McGaw. We were joined by two student speakers, Jadson Weeds-Wright and Olivia Salmonis, and then we closed out the workshop by really showing our gratitude to the Hero of the Heart selected at McGaw Elementary School this year, Mrs. Emmy Harris.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Well, we're now on to the part where the board president is supposed to give their report. And I basically decided, because we've only been back in school for a couple of weeks, not to do one because we're so fresh off of our winter break. But one of the things that I want to do in the future and tonight during the president's report, and it kind of tags on to what Mrs. Hill did when she was president. When people would ask her questions, she would frequently obviously respond to them and answer the questions, but she would bring them to the board and share them with everyone. And so I was reflecting on that, and I thought I would go back and basically look at all the questions I've been asked about what a board does. Because I think the most often question that I ever received was, what does the board really do? So I'm going to discuss a bit all throughout the different meetings that we'll be having, what a board member actually does. So to answer the question, what does a board member really do? I'm going to be a good member of the California School Boards Association and basically reply with what you learn when you go through your Master's in Governance program. And a board member sets the vision for the district, which is rather an unclear statement. As a board member, we're supposed to be in the helicopter looking down, and we're seeing the district as a whole and what can we do to improve the school district. So in LaSalle, how we do this is that we have our leadership team, which are the 5 board members and the superintendent, and we get together at least once a year and we discuss what we want for the students and staff in our school district. And we have these discussions, and we bring our personal opinion, we bring the opinions we've heard from other people, we bring legal, what is the state of California asking, we look at where we are and where we would like to be. Then we have other outside influences that will totally impact what our vision would be. And a couple of them was the 2008 recession, where all of a sudden our focus at that particular time was not to go bankrupt. And to do all the cuts as painlessly as possible. We had the COVID pandemic that just basically set the entire world on its side. And other things that are more positive is like when we have passed building bonds, facility bonds. Facility money is totally different from our operating money. So when you are able to pass a facility bond, thank you to our community very much, and you can see our schools are well taken care of because of the community's care. Then we obviously have to shift the focus more onto, okay, we want to do these things, and just all of the work that goes into hiring people and architects and making designs and decisions and things like that. We also get input from executive cabinet, which are the individuals to my left, maybe you're right, looking at it on the TV. And we take all these discussions and then we look at our goals that we already have established. As an educational institution, I cannot imagine us ever not having academics as our #1 focus, because that is what we are on business for. But we have other factors that play into it. And we have to take in consideration things that the state is telling us, like textbooks adoptions and things like that. And so we have these discussions and we look at the goals and we just refine them. We are pretty focused, this particular board that I'm sitting amongst, we're pretty much focused on keeping the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is educating every single one of our students and allowing our staff to be able to work to their best ability. So our overarching philosophy is, as a board, as the 5 board members, is really what the vision for our district is. And so we are striving always to get better and to go forward. And this is something that we as a board, we take very seriously. And this is what we do when I say the board sets the vision for the district. So now everybody knows too, and I hope, and that wasn't too cloudy. Anyway, now that I'm finished, we will turn over to the best reporter on this sitting on the dais. And Joelle, would you like to give your student report, please?
Good evening, President Cattouli, esteemed board members, Dr. Pulver, and any community members watching in person or online. My name is Joelle Kaiser, and I'm your student representative to the Board of Education from Los Alamitos High School. Taking us back to a time before winter break, Link Crew hosted a Cocoa and Cram, an after-school collection of freshmen, along with upperclassmen mentors and teachers, to help prepare them for their first set of high school finals. Along with the hot cocoa, tips for test taking were shared by Link Crew to once again equip freshmen with the best strategies in navigating the rest of their years in high school. What freshmen enjoyed best from this event was the vibe of studying in a library while being able to collaborate with their peers and other mentors. In addition to the Cocoa and Cram, which was exclusive for freshman Griffins, students from all grades took advantage of the Media Center's extended hours before finals and got to studying there. I personally love studying or getting homework done in the Media Center because it has so little distractions and I never know who I'm going to run into while I'm in there. Also, we had a holiday dress-out week the last week of the semester, which thankfully allowed us to be nice and comfortable wearing our PJs while taking some finals. It was really nice. And then next up, a standout sport this month was boys basketball. During their season, these athletes demonstrate a strong work ethic during practices and games, refining their individual skills while fostering a sense of unity as a team. The team is the top-rated public school in Orange County, and it's currently on an open division watch list among many nationally ranked teams. The level of skill that these Griffins have connected so many people. I saw young, inspiring athletes in elementary and middle school in the bleachers, also alumni, or if you're like my dad, people who just love to watch some good basketball. These players really put their best foot forward every game, and their results show that. You could see our Griffins in action next Friday at the Los Al Gym. And in the arts, orchestra had, I'd say, a pretty epic holiday concert, Nutcracker in a Nutshell. They performed their beautiful instruments to the various tunes from the Nutcracker and filled the PAC with lyrical sounds as always. Our Griffin musicians put in hours preparing for the show, and all of their determination was realized. Something special about this concert was that they incorporated some visuals from McAuliffe Middle School's sound check and advanced ballerinas from the dance program. Overall, the show was a great success in letting multiple Griffins and future Griffins showcase their talent for all to see. And from all the amazing A's I just shared, it's clear that Griffins know how to work hard. But when that semester break hits and school's out, Griffins definitely know how to play hard too. Jazz 1 and 2 brought their music all the way to the birthplace of jazz, New Orleans, to attend a festival and participate in a clinic where they were giving feedback from professionals. And also, ASB took a trip to the happiest place on earth and had a lot of fun bonding with fellow ASB members. Apart from large groups, students took time off and spent it as they chose. Our Griffins were all around the world, traveling to the Galapagos, Cambodia, Japan, and more. Other Griffins spent their precious time with their friends and family, and in conclusion, students made the most of their breaks, recharging for the semester to come. And moving on to our student spotlight, Jameson attended Weaver Elementary, then Oak, and is now an amazing senior. On campus, she is involved in Griffin News and the advanced media class Focus Studios. She covers a lot of Los Al's media, and especially sports, as she frequently goes to games and practices to take photos and film athletes to promote various programs. Outside of school, she loves to spend time with the people she loves. Whether she's at the beach with her friends or at home with her family, she always enjoys being in the company of others. After graduating high school, Jameson will attend Boise State, majoring in integrated media and communications. She plans on spending a lot of her time on Boise's blue turf to continue what she loves to do. Her ultimate goal is to produce a Super Bowl commercial, and with the hard work and determination that Jameson has already proven she has, I say there's nothing she can't do. And with that, I'd like to open any questions from the board.
I just want to say I love that we opened the Media Center, and I think that that's such a great example also for our students, because it's really, at least when I was in college, that's where I studied and studied the best, and I think it's prepping for that as well. So is it very full?
Yeah, and right after school, you've got to go right after school to find a seat, because there's always open seats, but people really love studying in the Media Center.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I would just want to say that I was so happy when you were talking about the cram and cocoa. Little sugar and caffeine never hurt. With the Link Crew, because I remember years ago when the Link Crew was started, it was basically just for the first day of orientation, and then the Link Crew just kind of went away, and they really didn't have anything to do with the kids that they were trying to introduce into the Los Al way at the high school. And I think this is great touching back. I mean, they don't have to, meet together weekly or whatever, but even though most middle school kids know how the joy of finals, this is a little more important, and it was probably very uplifting and helpful to them to know that there's other people that are concerned, and yes, you have to study, and yes, this is how we do it. So I was really happy to hear about that. Any other comments? No? Okay.
Well, only because I don't
you.
see this happen too often. But I do want to acknowledge that I think our student spotlight and mom is in the audience tonight. So how cool is that they're at the board meeting where they're being spotlighted? So congratulations.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, I know. I think I'm ignoring you, which I shouldn't. Anyway, it is now time for our superintendent's report, and I will pay strict attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Catulli, Madam President. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone had a great holiday with family, friends, and loved ones. It sounds like a lot of our students did. Some had some good travels, and others, there's nothing like just staying home and being with your loved ones as well. So tonight I thought I would spend a little bit of time just kind of highlighting a new program that we really created this year to recognize employee recognitions of the month. And so shockingly, we actually haven't had a monthly employee recognition until this year. And Dr. Ryan Weishride and Ms. Pichardo really kind of came up with this concept of why don't we recognize more employees throughout the year, because we have so many exceptional employees. And so we call it the Rock Star of the Month, and we try to each month. And what the great thing about it is it's classified and certificated, so there's at least 2 employees of the month that are recognized, and we send it out to all staff. And so staff get to nominate their peers as well. And then our middle school students paint these little rocks, and that's one of the little treats that we give, along with a little stress ball that says you rock, and I think a Starbucks. So something minor, a little pin. But so I wanted to shout out our August rock stars of the month: Omar Gonzalez, custodian at Weaver Elementary, and Miss Jenny Bain, who's a program specialist within our special education team. Again, you can start to see these rocks that our kids created. In September, we recognize Candace Aceves, who works in our child development program. She's a program technician. And then Tisha Thomas, third grade teacher at Rossmore Elementary. In October, we acknowledged and celebrated Maria Kiptia, teacher at Los Alamitos High School, tennis coach, WASP coordinator. She does so many Model United Nations, so many different things that she does. And so it was fun to be able to surprise her. And then Natalie Ward, who works in our food services department. She's our technician. And she works at the auxiliary, but really she works and supports all the cafeterias at all 9 campuses. And in November, we recognized a school psychologist, which is one of the reasons we like having these awards. Is there are certain types of employees that haven't had recognition categories in the general employees of the year, and so this psychologists are one of them. And Geraldine Kuhar is an amazing school psychologist at Oak Middle School, and so we got to recognize her, along with here at our adult transition program, Lisa Allen, who's an instructional aide who just does amazing work with our students, and particularly supporting them as they go out to in the community and work in different job settings as well. So I believe tomorrow we are going to recognize our December. We're always a little behind because they're nominated by their peers. So tomorrow we're going to recognize our December one. So I cannot announce it today. I apologize. So thank you to HR and our communications department who really made this possible. This is the time of the year where we do get to recognize our employees of the year. So the rock stars for the month, the employees throughout so it's a little more, you only get to choose a few. And so I'm pleased to announce that we were able to recognize, and we'll be bringing them to a future board meetings when their school sites are being recognized. We'll bring them here. So Karen Gasner, who's a special works in our at Weaver Elementary, but she's worked at multiple school sites. I knew her as a parent when I was principal at Lee. She's an instructional aide and just does exceptional work on behalf of our students. And so we got to surprise her. Weaver gets out a little bit before our other schools, and so we got to surprise her on their last day. Mary McCullough, who is an exceptional office coordinator. She's the office coordinator at McAuliffe Middle School, who just goes above and beyond everything, highly skilled. She's really structured and organized. And so we were able to surprise her, I think, on the last day of school as well, before we went to winter break. And then Ramon Zavala, who is in our IT department. He's the network security analyst, and he's an individual who's really moved up and been promoted, I think, 2 or 3 different times in his roles, who's just exceptional in customer service, provides all sorts of support to all staff. And so we were pleased to be able to recognize Ramon, and we'll bring him to a future board meeting as well. And then a new category, basically if you're a classified or certificated position that supports all of our school sites, but you don't have your own classification, we're just calling it Employee of the Year. And so our reading TOSA, Miss Evan Grandin, who's been extraordinary and is extraordinary in so many, she was an extraordinary teacher, and now she's been really overseeing reading and coaching instructional development for some of our new teachers and our veteran teachers, as well as really helping support our intensive reading labs that we deploy at all of our school sites with our intervention teachers. So congratulations to all of those. And last but not least, she is in the audience as well. Our Administrator of the Year is Miss Grace Delk, our Director of Special Education and Mental Health. Grace does such an exceptional job working with all of our families and students, particularly being able to provide opportunities for mental health services, which is another layer that has been added on over the years, and our commitment to that, along with our wellness themes. And I'm going to save a few words for when we recognize her at our board meeting, but congratulations to all of our LoSal USD Employees of the Year. We have one more to recognize, and that's the Teacher of the Year, and we'll be doing that within the next month. The Teacher of the Year program has a different timeline, so we want to back it up to their timeline. So we're going to wait a month for that. And that concludes my report. Oh, no, I have one more. I forgot. There's one last slide.
Oh, yes.
We are so fortunate to have an Ed Foundation that supports the work that we do here in LoSal. And Their Royal Gala is coming up on February 2nd. And each year they recognize a king, a queen, or both a king and queen. And in this case, they're recognizing king and queen Randy and Diana Hill. Diana is on our board. But if you didn't know, she actually was one of the early board presidents and involvement in LAIF in her early years before she served on the board. And so has Randy has served as the board president and been served on the board for LAIF. And so it's really just a recognition for the great work that they do to continue to support all of our students and all of our school sites. So if you would like to join us at this Royal Gala on February 2nd, you can purchase tickets through January 24th at laifforkids.org.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pulver. Okay, we're into the public comment section of our agenda.
Did you want to go to board comments before
Oh,
public
that's right. I
comments?
see. My vice president isn't keeping me under control. Okay, then I'll say, Mrs. Davidson, would you like to go first with board reports? Thank you, Dr. Pulver.
Well, I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to all of our hardworking, incredibly talented, innovative directors of performing arts. December was filled with the most joyous holiday dance, vocal, and instrumental performances by our students. Scrooge, the Grinch, and any other holiday naysayer did not stand a chance against the joyful programs produced on our campuses. Upon return to school, we celebrated the amazing work of video students when we surprised them with pizzas as an expression of our gratitude to the fabulous holiday video they produced for our community under the guidance of our truly incredible Communications and Public Relations Officer, Nicole Pichardo, and their brilliant teacher, Connor Brown. The only Grinch-like moments that have came from the state budget webinar. Yeah. Sorry, very Grinchy. However, even with the gloomy hints of impending cuts, we take heart knowing things could improve before the final approval of the budget in June. And we have our own brilliant finance department under the leadership of Mrs. Galicia to find the possible outcomes, better outcomes for our district. Melissa Davis led our first DAC meeting of the new year, wisely guiding our committee that includes administrators, teachers, staff, parents, and board members, Mrs. Catulli and myself. DAC is our district advisory committee that works to advise, engage, and collaborate for the best use of discretionary funds. Last week, with the return to school, we got to go to Lee and Rossmore and walk through classes. And I don't know if it's very professional, but it's really fun. It's just so much fun to be in the classrooms and see the outstanding passion that's demonstrated by our educators, to watch kids working in small groups together, working independently, listening to an instruction with avid interest. To go see them on the campuses with the beautiful playgrounds, murals on the wall, vegetable gardens that I have never accomplished in my whole entire life. There's so much to see on our campuses that really is encouraging to know that when you drop your child off at one of our schools, he or she is going to be loved, he or she is going to learn, and he or she is going to grow emotionally. So I really am grateful for that. Lastly, tonight, I would like to honor an incredible human being who passed away on January 1st. Dr. Pat Simmons served as principal of both Hopkinson and Lee in her time with our district. I got to know Pat before I ever started teaching as a brand new PTA mom with a kindergartner at Hopkinson. Working closely with Dr. Simmons, it quickly became evident to me that she was an administrator deeply vested and engaged in every aspect of campus life. If you ask most of us anyway, we would tell you that Pat was tough, but compassionate, demanding of your best, but the first to offer guidance and support, clear about her perspectives, but always, always willing to listen and modify her position if it served the common good. All of the Lee and Hopkinson counselors and teachers who were at her service this morning is a tribute to how loved and respected Pat was and always will be. Story after story shared since her passing centered on the common thread that Pat was a truly gifted educator who cared deeply for her staff, students, and families. I can honestly say that it was the loving, engaging climate my family experienced and the excellent standards of instruction her leadership inspired that moved me along my path to teaching. After her retirement, Pat never stopped expressing her loving spirit in service to others. I'm so thankful to her as my kids' first principal, a tremendous leader in our district, and my mentor and friend. Her lessons of love, determination, and commitment live in the hearts of every life she touched. Thank you.
Mr. Fayette?
That's a tough act to follow. That was a great read. I had the pleasure and honor to go to a couple of events. I'm just going to go over the recent ones because I can't remember the ones before the break. I got to see really a quality high-level basketball game, 71-65, pulled it out over a very tough Fountain Valley team. Coach Nageberger, I mean, it was unbelievable. It was fantastic. The kids played so hard. Mr. Mittner, I hope you are doing well and doing okay. Best wishes for a speedy and complete recovery. The basketball game was awesome. There was, our student board member there. I don't remember if you were leading the roller coaster or not. But one of these days, me and Mr. Forehand may get out there and try and lead it once. That's if our hips will move that way anymore. Bleachers were packed. It was unbelievable. Even the Fountain Valley side had almost a full bleachers. And of course, the Los Al students were out in force. The locals were there. Then I also got to see a dance program. Ricky Jones is fantastic. She's been around forever. She is a quality teacher and just does such amazing work with the students that come into her orbit. She did something for the first time. For the first time, they had a dance studio invitational. They invited local dance studios to come and perform. What a fantastic idea to spread it around. They had to have over a dozen. I don't know exactly, but they had the front and back of a piece of paper. There had to be, I think, more, almost like 20, but there's over a dozen different local studios. And I kind of say I'm a kind of a cultural Neanderthal. I grew up in upstate New York with farmers, and we weren't very culturally exposed. I've gone to the dance show the last couple of years because of the board and been exposed to. And as I told Ricky, my greatest regret is I didn't find out about this earlier so I could have gone and seen more. If you have the time, you're not going to find a better entertainment value than to come to one of these Los Al performances. So the 19th, this Friday, 7 o'clock, the dance is performing. And I can guarantee you it's going to be awesome. Also, the basketball is the 24th, 26th, and the 1st. Come out and see it. The level of basketball is incredibly high. The level of dance is incredibly high. And also, hopefully they won't have the silks, although they do it every time. I get so nervous. I'm just looking at that and like, how can we get away with that? Does the insurance company know that we're doing this?
Yeah.
So it is unbelievable. Like I said, the show is, I'm blown away. It's incredible. This is something that's not sponsored by the district, but the 20th September, there's an astronomy night on the Seal Beach Pier. I saw them set up when they had a science night at Oak. It was awesome. When looking through the telescopes, you literally thought that someone had taken a picture and taped it on the end of them. It's incredible. So if you're free and it's obviously a clear and lovely night, go down to the Seal Beach Pier Saturday night and check out the astronomy. So you've got dance, basketball, science, and just to round out everything, drama. Next week, the drama performs. I can't wait. Their performances are fantastic. Like I said, I am not the most sophisticated person in the world. I enjoy it. The kids are fantastic. And what these teachers are able to do with the students, I'm amazed. So do yourself a favor and check them out.
Thank you, Mr. Fayette. Mrs. Hill.
Thank you, Mrs. Gattuli. And Mr. Fayette, I just want to make sure I was right. I think you said September, but you meant January.
Yeah.
So I don't have much to share, but I do first of all want to thank the Mrs. Pichardo and also the Connor Brown. Connor helped you with the video for the college and career.
Yeah.
And it was just spectacular. And I so appreciate that we over the years have gotten comments from the public that we only focus on college. We don't focus on other avenues for our students. And I really appreciate how much we always have, but we've never really showcased them. And I love how much we're showcasing them. And that video was so well done in the case that it showed if you want to go to college, these are the options. You can do things without going directly to college. And this is what to look for. It was just really, really well done. And I just really appreciate that. And if anybody gets a chance to see those videos, I believe they're on our website. They're on our website. And so we do a new one every month. All through Ed Services. Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Just a great job. And then I got a little bonus today because I was asked in my professional life to come speak to our local Rotary Club today. What I didn't know is that 3 of our students were being honored at Rotary. And so it was Rotary honors one of our students every month, but they were a couple months behind. So,
Yeah.
so they had our November, December, and January students there, and they were all from CTE pathway of sports medicine, from a CTE pathway of theater production, as theater tech, and then from our, help me, TV and film production. Yes, Mr. Brown was there as well. And so it was just great, and they had their families, and it was so nice to see how proud they were, and these students are just extraordinary. So that was a little bonus for me today. So thank you, and thank you to Rotary for all the support of our district and our students.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Forehand.
Yes, Happy New Year to everybody. 2024, can't believe it. The walk through Lee and today at Oak, kids are already back to business and in positive learning environments. Shout out to LAIF. They've been granting more monies to our wellness center and also for STEAM, I think. They've been giving additional dollars to that program. Boy, they're great. Celebrations, you've mentioned pizza with Connor Brown's class, celebrating our holiday video, and I still don't know how they do it, but I'll probably never learn. And then I've been able to go to honor our rock stars and our employees of the year, awesome people. I wanted to shout out to Coach Maya DeAnda, who's the varsity girls basketball coach, who invited our littlest Griffins to the high school to play at halftime. And I got lots of comments, or I saw comments on social media about how positive an event that was. And then a shout out to our Gazette, our Los Al Gazette. I always try and pick one article that resonates with me, and it was Nandi Smith's article, New Year, New Me, and the message of you can do it that she wrote about. Then I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce Yonatan. That's the tuba player, probably the best anywhere. He was one of 10 tuba players in California to be selected by the Southern California Symphony Band. And I always finish with kids, which I just did, but this time I wanted to finish with our effort at our middle schools to participate in the No Place for Hate initiative. And this looks like going to be very, very powerful. It's dedication to inclusivity, student empowerment, and to create a no-hate environment at both middle schools. And I got to participate in the pledge at McAuliffe this past week, where the kids hand-printed their pledge to seek to gain an understanding of others, speak out against prejudice and discrimination, and I will reach out to those who are targets of hate, and I recognize that respecting individual dignity and promoting intergroup harmony is so critically important. So kudos to the staff at both the middle schools for taking this on, and I think it's going to make a big difference. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not going to really everything that I've done has already been mentioned. I just want to join my fellow board members in wishing everyone a very happy new year. And I really want to compliment our school community, because when I've been on campus, I have really noticed that the teachers and the kids and all the support staff is like they hit 2024 running, and they're up and they're going, and there was no lag because they were off for a break. They're just like right back in the routine of teaching and learning and supporting students. So that's great. Okay. Now we're on to public comments, and I do have a card, so I need to read this. The board welcomes input from the public. This is the opportunity for community members to provide public comment to the board on agenda items or items not listed on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the board should complete a speaker request card prior to the start of each meeting. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Public comment is limited to a total of 30 minutes. Comment cards can be submitted in the district office anytime after 9 a.m. on the day of the board meeting, and will also be accepted at the start of the board meeting at 6 p.m. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another. When addressing the board, speakers are requested to address the board from the podium, state their name, and adhere to their time limits. The board may not take any action or discuss any item not appearing on the posted agenda and cannot immediately respond to public comments. Speakers are cautioned that under the California law, no person is immune from liability for making intentionally false or defamatory comments regarding any person simply because their comments are made at a public hearing. And that is it. So I'd like to call Catherine Lasker to the podium to listen to her comments.
Hi. I'm going to read because I'm better reading than speaking. My name is Catherine Lasker. I'm a Seal Beach resident, mom of 3 kids. 2 are currently at McGaw. I was a teacher for 11 years, and 7 of them I spent at Oak Middle School. I'm here because I'm concerned with the recent elimination of the exceeds standards category from student report cards. I'm concerned that by eliminating this category, we're eliminating both a very easy means by which already overworked teachers, as I once was, can reward high-achieving students, and an incentive for students to exhibit ingenuity, passion, and true excellence in the classroom and beyond. I'm aware of the argument that the exceed standards label can be confusing for parents and children alike, and that it in effect changes the standard of what is expected of kids in a potentially vague and inequitable way. However, I would argue that that is kind of exactly what the real world is like. Every year during the Welcome Back presentation for staff at Los Al, Superintendent Pulver would remind teachers that they have been hired because they are the best of the best. In effect, I think we exceeded the standard. Having been through the hiring process and having also served on several interview panels myself, I can tell you that the best of the best classification is incredibly subjective and oftentimes contradictory. We would have pretty significant arguments about what we thought the best was. And this is not only the case for teaching. In fact, I would argue that success in the workplace will almost always include some kind of subjective method of evaluation, one that requires employees to make inferences about how to excel beyond the listed minimum job requirements, as I was explicitly told was expected from me as an employee in this district, and as I think should be expected of employees in the district. Some might argue that it's difficult for teachers to come to a consensus on what exceed standards means, and thus it's unfair, but I think if we're going to try to prevent unfairness, we should probably get rid of things like kids being allowed to choose what they wear, socializing on the playground, contests like McGaw Idol at elementary schools, because these are all activities during which students struggle to parse out the requirements for what exactly success in these spheres actually means. And I'm being sarcastic because I like all those things. Ultimately, my argument here is that the public schools have a duty to educate and encourage all students, including the high-achieving ones. They also have a responsibility to prepare students for the real world, which is a world steeped in conflict, ambiguity, and a constant influx of feedback and criticism. I also think we should be looking at the world around us and feeling a really urgent need to reorient the prevailing culture towards one of intellectual excellence and not mediocrity. I was raised in a very liberal education system. I got my teacher training from Teach for America. I worked in inner city schools for 5 years, so I'm a firm believer in the importance of educational equity efforts. I'm not sure if that's what this is, but I do think that any effort to achieve equity that involves lowering the bar for students is counterproductive at best. and a perpetuation of inequity at worst. In sum, I love LoSal. I'm a huge proponent of the public schools, which is why I want to make sure that they continue to serve students and remain a viable option for people in the community.
Yeah, finish your sentence. Thank you.
So, Madam President, I know the board cannot comment on anything brought up at a board meeting, but it's always when people come to a board meeting to be able to get some input. I always hate having nothing, and so I thought I'd ask our deputy superintendent just to explain a little bit of the changes, because it is not watering down in any sense any curriculum standpoints or the level of achievement that our students achieve. But I thought I would let you share a little bit more information, and then also offer to be able to meet with Mrs. Reed should you have any more questions beyond.
Absolutely. So it was actually 3 years ago that we had a year-long curriculum steering committee come together with 36 teacher representatives. So a grade level teacher representative from every elementary school in the district, along with 4 school site administrators and the educational services team, really do an exploration of our standards-based report card. And so we looked at neighboring school districts, we looked at state models, we had a lot of dialogue with our teachers. And so as Mrs. Lasker mentioned, there is some nuanced in a 4 and the exceeding standards. That is sometimes confusing to parents, sometimes confusing to students as well when they're performing at particular levels. And it was actually the opposite. Instead of watering down or only using a 4, teachers really wanted an opportunity to be able to meet one-on-one and in depth and explain the variance in student learning. So at the same time that we made a shift in our reporting model and went from a trimester model to a semester model. And so our parent conferences actually shifted to be an open space for such dialogue and a one-on-one feature. So we used to have our parent conferences when students brought home the report cards. And so parent conferences looked a lot like a teacher reviewing a report card with you. And most of our conferences, especially for younger families, would be a lot of education just about how to interpret a report card. And instead, we put our parent conferences at the mid-mark at where parents and families don't have a report card, but instead are able to look at work samples and have one-on-one dialogue, 20 to 30-minute conferences twice a year with families, so that local assessments like our reading assessments and our benchmarks that we give 2 and 3 times a year can be looked at as an actual measure to show when peers are exceeding standards. And then we actually did keep grades, achievement grades, letter grades that you might be familiar with, A, B, C, D, and so forth, on our 4th and 5th grade report cards, so that as students get ready to progress to the middle school, they are getting the same feedback that they would get when they report on a middle school campus. And so our curriculum has not shifted. Our commitment to meet every student where they're at and see a year's worth of growth is still there, but went to a 1 through 3 standards-based report card in kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, and then putting the emphasis on the parent conference as a way for teachers to really be able to anecdotally share where students are excelling and their growth in all content areas. So that's just a little bit of the history of the transition. So this is actually going to be our 3rd year with this current report card.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to presentation of supplemental materials. Mrs. Reed.
Perfect. Thank you so much, President Catulli. Our first supplemental material that we're bringing forward tonight is The Distance Between Us by Reina Grande. And this is going to be for English 2 and English 2 honors at the high school. It's a memoir that chronicles the author's first-person experience of a challenging childhood in Mexico and her journey to the U.S. as an undocumented immigrant. The author explores themes of family, identify, and the pursuit of the American dream amidst socioeconomic struggles. The novel offers rich opportunities for literary analysis, critical thinking, and discussions on cultural diversity, making it suitable for a text to meet upcoming changes in course development.
Okay. It will be on display for 30 days.
It will absolutely be on display for the next 30 days for public preview, and then we bring it forward at the next board meeting for approval.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I just have grade level or?
LAHS, English 2, and English 2 honors. It's our 10th grade offering for English at the high school.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, And Mrs. Reed, is there another supplemental material?
There is. Thank you so much. We're also bringing forward Front Desk by Kaylee Yang for our upper elementary classroom. So this would be for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classrooms. It's a true story about a 4th grade girl who moves to Anaheim, California from China in the 90s. So actually very relevant to our geographical location as well. And it teaches about kindness, family values, and immigration from a local girl from an Orange County perspective.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, on display for 30 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, now we're on to our quarterly Williams report. Dr. Wieswright.
Thank you, Madam President. There were no complaints filed with any school in the district during this quarter.
Okay, that is the kind of report we like to have. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to our consent items. These items are considered customary and usual by nature, and we usually take them as a whole. I would like to pull 10AF. Are there any other pulls? Seeing none, I will look for a motion to approve consent 10A through AE.
So seconded.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 5-0. The next item is 10AF, which is a certification of walk-on coaches. May I have a motion? Second. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. I abstain. Okay, now we're on to our action items, and we have lots of really fun board policies. The first board policy is on absences and excuses, and Dr. Wieswright, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Tonight, we're bringing forward the second reading and approval of revised board policy on absences and excuses. This has been updated in accordance with CSBA policy guide sheet, and it does not include any major changes and reflects our current practices.
Thank you so much. May I have a motion? Okay, is there any discussion on the new board policy? Second reading? Seeing none, then I will ask for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Measure carries 5-0. And then we have another second reading on a search and seizure policy, and Dr. Wieswright.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Tonight, we're bringing forward a second reading and approval of revised board policy 5145.12, search and seizure. It's being updated again in accordance with the recommendations from CSBA, and it clarifies the district's right to search students and their property when there is reasonable suspicion and or a threat to the health and safety of the students or staff. And these updates are aligned with our current practices.
Okay, thank you so much. May I have a motion?
I so move.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we're on to first readings. Okay, we have a first reading of board policy on district and school websites. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. We are bringing forward an update to Board Policy 113. This policy updates and incorporates concepts from a new law, AB 28273, which requires districts, if students are accessing our websites, that we adhere to specific requirements in order to ensure that they are safe.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for approval of first reading? Okay. At this particular time, because it's a first reading, if a board member has any questions or any comments or wants to change any wordage, this is a good time to speak up. So does anybody want to say anything about this particular policy? Okay, seeing everybody rush to their mic, all those in favor of the policy as presented for first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Another first reading of revised board policy is our food service operation and cafeteria fund.
Thank you, Madam President.
Alicia.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This policy is being brought forward to incorporate new law, SB 490, and another new law, AB 778, which specifies that we need to solicit bids and contracts in regards to agricultural food products that only be purchased from domestic food growers, as long as they meet certain criteria. So if the items we are purchasing are not they're inferior than the outside, then we would have to, adhere to those laws, and also make sure that we purchase from domestic products.
Yeah, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the law that was passed, and they want schools to purchase California food as
California grown.
opposed to international or even out-of-state food.
That is correct.
And I know, just like you mentioned, there's some parameters for us to look at, but basically, I think we're going to be paying a little more for food.
As long as it's not more than 25%.
That's
so
huge.
if an outside vendor outside of California, their prices is 25% lower than those guidelines, we can go ahead and purchase from outside.
Yeah, okay. I basically want to support our farmers, but then I look at our budget and the governor's budget, and
Yeah, there is a concern that some of these prices are going to go up higher in California.
thank you.
so.
May I have a motion for approval of the first reading? Okay, is there any comment or questions or corrections?
There is, thank you. Mrs. Galicia, so I thought that we typically have approved vendors. We have to go through a process to approve so does that mean that your staff is going to have to go back through for and this is for all fresh items, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Agricultural products.
Okay, and so we're going to have to go back through that process again?
If we need to bid again, if we're in a current contract, no. But if we need to go into a procurement method, then yes, we would have to adhere to these new laws.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions or clarification points? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, now we're on another first reading of our mental health policy. And may I have a motion, please?
Also move.
Thank you. And Mrs. Reed, will you please speak to it?
Yeah, thank you so much. So this is actually a new policy. We actually get updates from CSBA quarterly that advises us on changes because of changes in laws or ed code where we need to look back at our district policy and make revisions or additions. And so this is actually a new policy for us, 5141.5 mental health, and it outlines our district's focus on mental health and the strategies and services that we provide. But it also, by law, has all of the requirements per ed code that outline all of the mandates that we must follow under mental health procedures. So we're bringing this forward tonight for a first reading.
Okay. Again, are there any questions or clarifications or anything with this policy?
So this is done by the state school board, right? I mean, the writing of this policy?
Well, we get samples from CSBA.
CSBA,
Yeah.
okay.
We get samples from CSBA and then we bring them to a team. We talk about it in executive cabinet and then make any revisions to the sample language so that it really fits the culture of our school district. But some of the language, if it's mandated by law or ed code, we do have to include. And so there is some language in this under ed code 494 to 8.5. For example, the posting of posters on our secondary school sites, which identifies how students can access mental health resources. That's ed code and law. So some things do have to legally be inside of ed code so it's accessible to our community.
So this is our first read. So if we do have questions when we come back to vote
Absolutely.
on it, we can still ask them.
Yeah, this is just a first reading.
Okay, thank you.
You're more than welcome.
But I would recommend if the board has questions, if you don't have them tonight, that's okay. Remember, we have our next board meetings in February. Send the questions in so that if we need to change the language, we'd rather get the language approved or the language needed to discuss that we can present to you guys for the second reading.
I'm really appreciative of this. I'm appreciative of the fact we're laying down regulations and guidance and, you know, putting it on paper, what we want to accomplish and how we can best help kids. So thank you.
Yeah, but I'd like to just reiterate what Dr. Pulver said. I'm not going to say it's wordsmithing, but if something is written in a manner that you as an individual or you as a representative of a bunch of individuals are uncomfortable with or think can be improved, please let them know as soon as possible. I mean, it's already it's a piece of work from a committee, so, you know, the more the merrier. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
Mrs. Guttuli?
Oh, we didn't vote either.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
No.
Oh, you have a
I have a
comment?
question.
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
thank
Sorry.
you. But also when you were talking about that, Mrs. Reed, it means that you really are trying to match this to a lot of the work that we are currently already doing in this district. correct?
Absolutely. Because we
Okay.
could choose not to add a new policy, but it's been such a focus of the board. It's in our priority goals. And we've done really insurmountable work over the last 5 years that it should be outlined for the community as to what we're operating in our school site. So it's very transparent and clear.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And Mrs. Reed, the first reading of non-public, non-sectarian school and agency services for students with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Catulli. So this is an updated board policy, and the updates include new language stating that any master contract with a non-public school or agency will include language that the non-public school or agency needs to abide by our district policies and practices in regards to student rights and safety. So basically stating that although our students may be attending a non-public school, if we're sending them there in partnership with a contract, those students fall under our policies and practices when it comes to their rights and safety concerns.
Okay, great. May I have a motion for this first reading?
I'll second.
Are there any questions, discussions, clarifications from the board? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And I would just like to make a comment to the public is that these are updated with law changes and with changes radical, I shouldn't say radical, but different changes in how we might do something as a school district. And so we need to institutionalize it through our policies. And it can be a little dry, but it's necessary. Ask any attorney. We're going on to the approval to submit for a consolidated application for categorical aid programs for the 23-24 winter release. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Catulli. So annually, we must submit our CONAP to the state of California so that we're eligible to receive federal funding in certain categorical programs of money. And so this would be our annual submission to the State Department of Education indicating our intent to participate in categorical programs.
Thank you. May I have a motion? Are there any comments? I just want to say thank you to you and to the team that works on these because we don't get a lot of money from our categorical programs, but we like every dollar that we get. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we're on to adopting the Los Alamitos Unified School District Resolution 23-24-17, authorizing the signatures of designated district personnel and the board president. Ooh, oh boy. Mrs. Galicia, will you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. Yes, we are bringing forward this resolution to add new board president, Ms. Catulli, and vice president, Mrs. Davis.
Yeah, okay. May I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ms. Catulli,
Opposed? Oh, it's a roll call.
Mr. Fayette. Ms. Davidson. Ms. Catulli.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Okay, this is my practice meeting. Okay, we're on to the approval of warrants. The warrant is basically the checkbook of the district, and I know Mrs. Hill and I always count the pages, 46. I think there are 46, and there's more than one per page. That's all I'm saying. And if we have, as a board or as an individual on this board, if we ever have any questions about where is this money going, who are these people, and why did we spend it, we send it in before our board meeting, and we get our answers, so we know where all our money is going to. So may I have a motion for the approval of the warrants?
I so move.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We're now going on to our gratitude part of the meeting. And I am always amazed monthly and bi-monthly how generous and giving our entire community is and what we try to do for all of our students. This particular month, $76,683.75. We're up to almost $393,000. That is a lot of money. Anyway, so I would like to thank our community for their generosity. It is very much appreciated, and it is very enhancing of the experience that all of our students get in all of our schools. So may I have a motion to thank our community officially?
I so move.
Okay, any comment or questions? Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we are now on to our personnel report. We usually take our classified and certificated personnel report together. Dr. Wieswright, do you have anything to say?
Just the classified and certificated personnel reports reflect the changes since our last meeting, and we recommend approval as presented.
Okay. May I have a motion? Okay, any comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Well, we're at the end of the meeting for most people. We are going to have to go ahead and recess this meeting now because we need to go back into closed session. So thank you everyone for coming, and thank you everyone who is watching on YouTube, and have a fabulous 2024.